This is Dr. Alan Wegg with OCD tip number 9, exposure intensity. Now, in conducting an exposure response prevention program for OCD, there are 3 very important variables to consider. This OCD tip is going to be focusing on the first of those variables, exposure intensity. So, how anxiety-provoking do you want your exposure experience to be? If we apply our subjective units of discomfort scale, the SUD scale, that 1 to 10 anxiety scale, where 1 is very low anxiety and 10 is very high anxiety that we talked about in a previous OCD tip, if your exposure experience is a 1 or a 2 or 3 on that scale, you're really not challenging yourself very much. It would be like going to a gym and picking up a barbell that's maybe 2 pounds and just picking it up over and over and over again. You're not really going to be building any muscle or endurance. On the other hand, if you do an exposure experience and on the SUD scales you're registering an 8 or 9 or even a 10, you might very well overwhelm yourself. It would be like going to the gym, and if you're not particularly in great shape, wanting to pick up a 200-pound barbell. Even if you were able to do it, it would probably be so intense that you wouldn't want to go back to the gym anytime soon to try again. And so really what we're looking for in an exposure paradigm is a situation that's going to trigger your SUDs to a level of about 5 or 6 or 7, like that sweet spot in between, where you're challenging yourself enough so that you feel like you're accomplishing something, but on the other hand, you're not overwhelming yourself. Now, there is some recent research that does indicate that very high levels of anxiety might be beneficial in an exposure experience, but we're trying to balance that with the idea of making sure that you actually continue with your exposure experience on a regular basis and that you keep to it. So, when designing an exposure response prevention program for OCD, keep in mind the OCD exposure variable of intensity. This is Dr. Alan Wegg. See you next time on OCD Tips.